You're still a little quiet.
Hello.
Too loud. That's Naomi levels.
Oh.
I think that's good. Normal
Okay.
conversation.
Normal conversation.
Welcome back to Wow and Owen Date These Guys. I'm Joel Guy.
I'm Lauren Pulse, not Naomi Guy.
Excellent. And we are a podcast where we discuss dating, relationships, sex, culture, things, often with my sister, but she is unavailable today. So instead, we have joining us my lovely girlfriend.
Hello.
Back once more to discuss people's relationship problems and render judgment.
Yep.
But before we do that, we have a drink to test and anecdotes to share about our life that we have not yet been able to record and talk about. So, Lauren, without further ado, do you want to pop that bad boy open?
Sure. Today we are drinking Coca-Cola Dream World, which I am nervous about.
Coca-Cola Dream World feels like they're branching off into a new type of Coca-Cola, but the flavoring is different drugs. So, like, Coca-Cola obviously was originally flavored with Coke. This is probably like LSD. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
It doesn't really have a smell.
Okay, that's so much Coke. Oh my God. I don't actually enjoy the taste of Coke.
Well, this isn't Coke. This is Coke Dream World.
Bottoms up, I guess.
I'll finish it if you don't like it.
That's so nice of you.
Cheers. Maybe I won't finish it if you don't like it.
Okay, so this was advertised as like a limited edition. I picked it up at a discount food store in part of like a giant pallet. So clearly other people weren't enjoying it. It smells fruitier than I remember Coca-Cola was. Mm-hmm. It tastes like bland root beer.
Yeah.
Am I crazy?
You're not crazy. It's like half root beer, half Coke.
It's like root beer, but marketed as having less sugar than normal root beer.
Yes.
This is like diet root beer that you'd buy as part of the Atkins diet.
Yeah, I don't like it.
I'm
still going to drink the whole thing because it's here.
And because it has LSD in it.
And because it has LSD in it.
Lauren, what have we been up to since we last appeared on this? Well, you've last appeared on this podcast. I'm a weekly regular.
Let's see. Our life has been, we haven't had many big things happen, I would say.
Yeah, that's fair.
But we painted the house.
That is a big milestone.
Yes.
You know what they say, you don't truly know if you love your significant other until you've done a major home renovation together.
And we have.
And we have.
And we do.
And it looks so bright. And we do. Yes, we painted our living room and bedroom a nice, I don't know, baby blue.
Baby, like the bedroom is more of a ice blue. And the living room is more of a baby blue.
And I'm a boy, so I can't tell those apart. No, it was, I think, a fun thing keeping you busy because there's something you've been waiting on for a while, right?
Oh, yeah. I've been waiting on bar results from the bar exam, which, if you didn't know, is the big test you have to take to become a lawyer.
What happened there, Lauren?
Well, I passed.
That's great. I'm so proud of you.
I passed the bar. Yeah, I passed the exam, which is awesome. And I was supposed to start my job tomorrow. Oh, that's really sad. I was supposed to start my job tomorrow.
This is not meant to bum you out.
This is not meant to bum you out. It's meant to bum me out, and it's working.
If I can insert one of my classic Joel complaints about the world, not a lot of people realize this, but becoming a lawyer is even more difficult than you probably assume becoming a lawyer is. There's so many different tests and random fees and long waiting periods that it makes it very difficult for anybody who can't go to school full time, who's like employed and doesn't have wealthy parents to succeed. It can be done, but like there's so many barriers put up to prevent people who don't come from a position of privilege to succeed in law school. And one really good example is something called character and fitness. Lauren, what is character and fitness?
Character and fitness is basically a large background check, a very, very thorough background check. But it is a background check that is like more thorough than a military security clearance background check for reasons no one understands.
Yeah, my father and our friend of the pod, RJ, have gotten security clearances at different points, and typically they require like 6 to 10 references at most. Lauren, how much does character and fitness require?
Like 20 to 30.
Yeah, so it's very difficult. There's a lot of boxes to check, I's to dot, T's to cross. There's a lot that can go wrong. And what did go wrong?
Two things. One, a couple of my references didn't get back to them in time because my job won't hire me unless I have a bar number, which I need to pass character and fitness to have a bar number. But two, they found a bill that I forgot to pay in 2018 that I didn't report on my character and fitness examination.
Because you had already paid it off, correct?
Because I'd already paid it off, and it doesn't appear on my credit score anymore because it was so long ago. And I just didn't think about it because it wasn't a big deal. And the question was phrased like, have you ever failed to meet your financial obligations? And I'm like, no, I've paid off all my debt. Like, never failed to meet my financial obligations. But apparently, forgetting to pay a bill for more than 90 days is failing to meet your financial obligations. So now I have to get certification from the bank that I paid the debt and write a letter or a statement as to why I didn't include the debt in my application in the first place.
And this is all to prevent her from becoming a public defender. Because that's what we need. More barriers preventing people from defending the public.
Yes.
And then we had one last bit of excitement, which I want to get into before we get into our questions for the day. And that was, it is Thanksgiving weekend.
The past few days.
The past few days have been Thanksgiving weekend. We're recording on Saturday the 26th. This will probably be out this coming week or the week after. And a little something happened on Wednesday evening. There we are, sitting on the couch, lying in bed, when my lovely baby boy, Jellybean the cat, jumps on the bed with us. And Lauren goes, "What is that?" And I said, "What?" And she's like, "His butt." And I'm like, I don't stare at my cat's butt. That's
And then he's
weird.
like, "Probably poop." And I'm like, "That's not poop."
And there's this giant oozing sore on his butt next to his
butthole. Yeah.
And it shouldn't have been there. And we got very concerned. So we looked up online. Lauren has done cat rearing before, so she had a pretty good idea of what it was. What was it exactly?
It was an anal gland rupture.
Yeah, and I did not know this, but cats have glands next to their butt that help them poop. They express oil or something?
Yes, to help them mark their territory.
Oh.
Yes.
And occasionally, if they're not releasing this fluid, it can build up and then just rupture and leave a giant gaping hole in your cat's butt. And he was doing all right. He wasn't complaining, though he had been a bit more affectionate.
He was clingy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we immediately were freaking out, and we went to a vet on Wednesday evening.
An emergency vet. Yeah.
And we're there until 2:30 a.m.
2:30 a.m. Yes.
Waiting to hear back. And they were like, "Yep, it's a rupture. We cleaned it out. We sewed it up. We gave you a bill." And we're like, "Thank you for that." And they sent us home with some antibiotics and pain relievers for your cat, because it turns out you shouldn't feed your cat aspirin. Thursday morning, we text our parents, let them know my parents, and say, "Hey, we're going to be a little bit late for Thanksgiving." We're in bed trying to give Bean his medicine. And I'm like, "What's that?" And there's another rupture, slightly in a different location, that is all red and inflamed and weeping. And I'm like, well, crap. And our guess was that when they had stitched up the first one, it might have put pressure on the second one and caused it to pop open. But there we were, exact same situation, and we needed to get to Thanksgiving. So he was on painkillers, weren't too concerned. He was on antibiotics, weren't too concerned. We're like, we're going to do a quick Thanksgiving and then bring him back to the same emergency room. Did that, bring him back, sit there for 6 hours from 5 to 11.
6 freaking hours.
Yes.
We came more prepared that time.
We did.
Though.
We brought, video games and phone chargers and all that.
And water bottles.
Water bottles, yeah. And they come in finally at the end and are like, "Oh, yeah, he's perfectly fine." And we're like, what? And they go, "Yeah, I don't know if the doctor told you yesterday, but that's how these wounds heal. They express themselves." And we went, "No, that wasn't mentioned yesterday." And she says, "Oh, yeah, that's the same one. It's just, leaking stuff. It's going to scab over. It's all good. We're not going to charge you for this." And I don't know, at that point, I wanted to send them an invoice for wasting our time.
Yeah.
I was thankful they did not charge us for a second follow-up doctor.
I consider my time to be worth about $30 an hour, generally. Like, if I'm paying for things, I'm like, okay, is this more or less than $30 per hour? Will I enjoy it $30 per hour worth? So, yeah, they owe me, what? $180
Well, over 2 nights.
minus
Well,
tax.
no, the first night, that's fair.
The first night we
Yeah.
actually needed to be there.
Yeah, so that was a little frustrating. Bean now is at home. He's doing well. He's recuperating. Wound seems to be okay. We're going to get checked out this coming weekend just to make sure he's on the mends.
He's in a cone of shame, which he doesn't like very
Yeah,
much.
he wants to claw at those stitches and lick his butt, and we're not going to let him do that because we know how expensive it is if
Yeah.
that were to occur again. But that was, I don't know, that feels like a major relationship milestone.
Yeah.
Having sick pets and freaking out over what to do over them. It felt very much like a sick child at that point in time.
I think one of the things that we've always said about relationships or serious relationships is it's a milestone when you have to overcome some sort of loss or adversity together.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was our overcoming adversity.
Nice.
Because we didn't know how much it was going to cost. There was a chance it was going to be cancer. We had to do things like sign a DNR form.
They're like, if your
for
cat
him.
has a heart attack in the
If
middle
your
of
cat
us
has a
taking
heart
care
attack,
of
what
him.
do you want us to do? And so we signed a DNR for Bean, and that was a hard decision.
We got to sit in a clinic room as sick animals were paraded in and out.
Yeah,
Not all of
it
them
was
made it
pretty
back
traumatic,
out. Yeah,
yeah.
that's sad. Thankfully, we got to sit in a sub room the
Yeah.
second night. But yeah, it was a big deal, and I'm glad you were there for that, Lauren.
Thank you. I'm glad I was there for that too.
I will mention this. We do have a Patreon,
Mm-hmm.
and for people who subscribe to our Patreon, we are sending out holiday cards
Ooh.
soon for said patrons. Those will also include some stickers with an updated design of our logo.
Wait,
And-
so we're sending out both our Christmas card and Date These Guys stickers?
Mhm.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But if you want to see Bean Boy depicted on those cards in incredible fashion,
It's incredible.
it's not too late. The cutoff is probably going to be in a week or so consider signing up. We go as low as $1 a month, and all of those donations go straight to charity right now. So there's really no reason to not do it unless you hate charity.
I hate charity.
That's totally fair. So before we get into questions, I just have one thing to mention. We are currently recording in our home's kitchen,
Yes.
not our normal studio, which is at Naomi's house. So you may hear additional sounds. We live next to quite a busy road. There are
That
cats.
people like to drag race down.
People do like to drag race on. We have cats who are doing all sorts of parkour and exploration around us at the moment. I will do my best to edit around this, but there's only so much we can do at times. So without further ado, Lauren, give me some questions.
Okay, so our first question is, am I the asshole for being upset my wife didn't stay in the hospital with me? So I, 35 male, was in a motorcycle accident earlier this week. My wife, 35 female, has 3 kids from a previous marriage, 17, 10, and 5, and we have a 1-year-old together. I had a collapsed lung and I had a chest tube put in, a broken leg, an arm, and torn ligaments in my knee. I'd been in the hospital since Monday. She came out the day of the accident and stayed until about 4 p.m. Was back that same morning but had gone home each night. Yesterday she only stayed until about 1 p.m. to prepare the house for the hurricane and didn't come at all today because the weather wasn't great and she said she didn't want to leave the kids. I told her I was upset that I basically went through everything alone, that I would have done anything to be with her. She told me that there has been as much as possible, that she'd been there as much as possible, and it was not fair to dump all the kids on her daughter, especially since I'll need a lot of help when I get home, and her daughter will need to help with the kids when she works. I told her marriage means through thick and thin, and I feel abandoned. Now I'm getting one-word answers from her. Am I the asshole for feeling like an afterthought?
I don't feel he's the asshole, but I think there's more to this.
I agree. I don't think he's the asshole, but I think he needs therapy.
Oh, I wouldn't even go that far.
Really?
Look, he was in a traumatic situation, right? Collapsed lung, chest tube put in, broken legs and arms. Like, I've had very minor damage to my arm, and that was incredibly painful. And I'm deeply appreciative my family was there to help take me to the emergency room and help me navigate all of that stuff. So, this seems far more serious. Having just been in a, depressing clinic, sitting for hours, not knowing what to do and what was going to be the outcome. I can totally understand that feeling. That doesn't mean the feeling is 100% valid. It's just that I think it's totally understandable. It's I don't know, women who are going through traumatic pregnancies, being mad at their partner for one reason or another. I think they're not wrong per se to have a lot of emotions. It's just that there's a greater context. And to that point, I think that the wife was trying to keep the family together, and that, is her valid opinion. I think he should probably do something nice for his wife, and they should maybe spend some time together if they get a chance at any point in the near future. But yeah, this isn't something to end a marriage over.
No, it's definitely not something to end a marriage over, and I didn't mean to imply that at all.
Oh, okay. Well, I was thinking that line. I'm getting one word answers from her where she's like, it's on the rocks.
Oh no, I didn't think that was like on the rocks. I just thought that was them having an argument, or her being cold to him rather.
I do feel he's being a bit unfair when he says marriage means through thick and thin.
I also agree.
Like when people say that, they mean like, hey, if your significant other's like father dies, don't run off and spend a weekend with your girlfriends. Like, spend time with them, help support them emotionally. That doesn't mean you need to be beside your partner at every waking moment
for 24 hours a day.
Yeah. So I think we're good on this.
No asshole here?
No asshole. I got one for you, Lauren.
Okay.
And this is something that may affect us.
Oh.
Am I the asshole for threatening to fire my fiance? And I'm just saying, Lauren, if you don't deliver really good quips on this episode, you may not come back. So that's why I feel
I'm not getting paid to be here, Joel.
It's exposure.
For what?
Lauren does wills. I don't know if people know this. Anyways.
I don't do wills.
Anyways, am I the asshole for threatening to fire my fiance? I, 35 male, and my fiance, 25 female, work at the same bar together. That's actually how we met, was when she started working there 4 years ago. I asked her on a date not long after, and we've been together ever since. Currently, my fiance is 33 weeks pregnant. Hey, Lauren, how long are people typically pregnant for?
40 weeks.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That seems pretty far along in the pregnancy.
It is pretty far along in the pregnancy.
While I understand working and being on her feet is very hard for her, she really has just dropped the ball at work. Ever since she found out that she's pregnant, she's been sleeping in, showing up late, missing shifts, trying to leave early, giving away shifts last minute, and just having a bad attitude towards work in general. Yes, it's difficult for her to work now and she gets tired easily, but I really don't think it excuses her behavior. She's been named in multiple negative reviews and it's been brought up by the owners more than once. Over the weekend, she was working during brunch and she decided to leave early without being approved to do so. I had to come in to cover her because no one else was available. By the time I got there, multiple tables had walked out from waiting so long since we were understaffed to begin with. I didn't get home till late because I was scheduled to close anyways and I was furious. I slept on the couch and when she tried to get me to come to bed, I sat her down and told her how she couldn't pull something like that again or she would be fired. She obviously didn't like this and threw a fit, calling me names and crying about how she needs this job. She ended up going to her friend's house for the night and I know she's going through a lot, but I'm just tired of picking up the slack for her at work. So, am I the asshole?
I don't think so.
Go on.
I mean, it probably sucks to be pregnant. I don't know, and I don't plan on knowing whether or not it sucks to be pregnant, but I hear that a lot of really weird things happen to your body, and it makes you kind of miserable.
Look, I just had a big Thanksgiving dinner, and I was feeling pretty
Food
gross
baby,
afterwards.
slapping your belly like Monty the Mole.
I don't understand that reference.
It's a Mario Kart reference.
Okay.
Yeah. But her behavior is not professional.
Yes.
The fact that she gets tired easily is one thing, but that she's sleeping in, showing up late, missing shifts, trying to leave early, giving away shifts last minute, and just having a bad attitude towards work in general, like, that speaks to a problem of, like, her attitude and not necessarily just her physical state.
I think it's a little bit of both, because some of those, like, giving away shifts last minute could be, like, you're having horrible puking or whatever. But other things, totally. Like leaving work early without telling anybody.
I also think the edit is really important here. Would you read the edit?
Sure. Edit, I was not her boss when we first started dating. We were both bartenders, and I didn't get promoted until 2 years ago. Her hours have been cut back significantly to the bare minimum, and I do most of the housework to try to help out. I even told her we'd be fine if she just quit or took leave early, but she doesn't want to do that. I don't feel you should be the boss of your significant other.
No, I agree that you shouldn't be the boss of your significant other. Like, this is an awkward situation. And
like, you either accommodate them and make life harder for everybody else, you work them to the bone, and they're exhausted and mad at you at home. There's not really a good answer in there.
Yeah, but she seems to be getting slack that other people wouldn't get.
Right.
If... Like, the line that really gets me is that she has been mentioned in bad reviews.
Yeah,
like,
that's
that
pretty rare.
Means that she's really doing something wrong for people to call her out by name or appearance or some other identifying factor in like an online review, because that takes effort on the part of the customer to express their negative opinion. So clearly she doesn't have a great attitude towards work. She doesn't want to be there. He's told her that it's fine to quit or to take leave early. Like, she really has no excuse at this point for still being there.
I'm going to push back a little.
Okay.
I don't think he's the asshole for threatening to fire her, because I think, given what he's described, I would imagine most managers would do the same thing.
Yes.
Like, I do think it's weird that he's her boss, but
I agree.
in this situation, if it's what he's described, this all makes sense. I do feel, and this has been a subject of contention in our relationship, that a lot of people in relationships want to, quote unquote, pull their weight. Yeah. And they feel obligated to, do stuff either around the house or to bring in money. And I think especially when you're working class, say 2 people working restaurant jobs in America, you probably are feeling a little stressed about money as a pregnancy approaches. I can't imagine your health insurance is particularly good.
Yeah.
I can't imagine you have a lot of disposable income. So I can kind of understand where she's coming from, where she's like trying to still work, but also doing like a crappy job. That said, as I mentioned, there are some behaviors where it's like she's dropping the ball and she's expecting like that she'll be coddled for that. Yeah. And I think it's admirable that theoretically she wants to continue working, but it also seems that she's like stepping over the line.
It's admirable that theoretically she wants to continue working. I'll agree with that. But she's not, from a purely behavioral economics perspective, she's not acting rationally. Like, if she thought she needed the money, she wouldn't miss a shift, or she wouldn't give shifts away.
Well, again, I would excuse that behavior because pregnancy comes with nausea, it comes with fatigue, it comes with all sorts of things where you might have last minute concerns. And I think this goes to the bigger issue where maybe pregnant women shouldn't be expected to work up until they deliver in this country.
For sure.
I think it certainly is a problem that people are expected, regardless of, how they're feeling and their health conditions, to, work even when sick, even when fatigued.
No, I agree. But this is clearly beyond the scope of I'm constantly throwing up and I need to be at home because of that.
Mm-hmm. So we don't think this person's the asshole.
No.
I am split whether or not the fiancé is an asshole. You think she's an asshole?
I think the fiancé is an asshole.
Okay. But I think we both understand where
asshole.
we're coming from.
Yeah, not a no asshole here.
Go for it.
Am I the asshole for saying my girlfriend thinks she knows better than culinary professionals and expressing my disapproval? I, 26 male, live with my girlfriend, 27 female. Hey, it's us!
Oh no, I shouldn't have posted this.
Of 4 years, no, it's not us. And we try to split all grocery shopping and cooking duties equally. We both like cooking well enough. Yeah, it's not us. I don't like cooking. And pay for subscriptions in several recipe websites like Epicurious and New York Times. And consider it an investment because sometimes there's really creative stuff there, especially since we've had to cut back on food spending recently and eating out isn't often viable. It's nice to have some decent options if we're feeling in the mood for something better than usual. I make it sound like we're snobs, but we eat boxed macaroni once a week. Because we work different hours, even though we're both work from home, we almost never cook together. So I didn't find out until recently that she makes tweaks to basically every recipe she cooks. I had a suspicion for a while that she did this because I would use the same recipe to make something she did previously and it would turn out noticeably different. But I brushed it off as her having more experience than me. But last week I had vet's day off, and on a day she always had off, and we decided to cook together because we had the chance to do it, and it doesn't come up often. I like to have the recipe on my tablet, and while I was prepping stuff, I kept noticing how she'd do things out of order or make substitutions for no reasons, and barely even glanced at the recipe. It got to the point I was concerned she was going off the rails, so I would gently try to point out when she'd do things like put in red pepper when the recipe doesn't call for it, or twice the salt. She dismissed it, saying that we both prefer spicier food, or that the recipe didn't call for enough salt to make it taste good because they were trying to make it look healthier for the nutrition section. Question mark, question mark, question mark. It's not like I think her food tastes are bad or too salty, but I genuinely don't understand what the point of the recipe is, or paying for the subs if she's just going to make stuff up. And there's always a chance she's going to ruin it and waste food if she changes something. I got annoyed and said that the recipe was written with what it has for a reason, and that she knows what we like I don't. So I said she didn't know better than the professional chefs who make the recipes we use, and neither do I, obviously. she got really offended and said, I always, quote, did this. And when I asked what, quote, this was, she said I also got mad at her once because she'd make all the bits left over after cooking into weird Frankenstein meals. This sounds like Joel. I barely remember this until she brought it up. At times she made parm grilled cheese and I wouldn't eat it. She makes tomato paste, parm, and a bit of mayo to make a cheese filling because it was all we had. Yeah, I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole even though she claimed it tasted good. She called me stiff and closed-minded, and I said why couldn't she follow directions? Even kids can follow a recipe, and it's been almost a week and we're both still sore about it. Am I the asshole?
Yes. It goes beyond being an asshole, where I like genuinely think this person has like a mental condition, and I don't want to like self-diagnose, but there's some really weird stuff in here. He's laser focused on this idea that there's a right way to make a recipe.
Yeah.
And the idea that people can make substitutions based off what they like, what's in their fridge, what they've tried before, just seems completely unfathomable to him. And he's been doing this for years, right? He's been cooking for years. So you would think he's come across a recipe before where it's like, if you don't have this, don't put it in, or substitute X for Y. And he's just so laser focused on this idea that there's an equation for every recipe and you have to follow it precisely or end up with like inedible glop.
I mean, I used to think that way, but I'm also not a big cook. So, like, I get the idea. Like, I used to think that if you didn't follow a recipe, really until I met you, I used to think if you didn't follow a recipe, it wouldn't turn out well.
I feel like an asshole for
You're not an asshole. I just see that you very much identify with a girlfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's weird that he's like, you think you know better than culinary professionals, because that doesn't even seem like it's his problem. The problem seems to be you're going to ruin the food.
Yeah.
But he also knows she's done this before.
And he likes the food.
Yeah. So that's really weird. Yeah, I'm very much like the girlfriend. I think she's completely right that like recipes lie to tell you that they're healthier than they actually are. They're like, use less butter.
Yeah,
like,
use less oil, use less salt.
They're like, you can caramelize onions in 15 minutes on the stove. And that's just completely untrue. I think there's a difference between baking and cooking, and baking is following directions because there's certain chemistry at play.
Yeah, maybe he's more of a baker.
And then cooking is very much more improv. And I think it's important to understand, like, how I think about cooking is very much, you can start with like a framework where it's like, I want a curry, I want a soup, I want, a stuffing, and then make alterations based off of what you have in your fridge so food doesn't go bad, right? You're going to buy a lot of food, you're going to buy a lot of spices that you're going to use very small amounts of for recipes, then have sitting in your cabinet. And it makes sense to try to work those into other meals that you're working on. If you're making a stir fry, throw in some of the extra vegetables you have. If you have, extra meat left over, put it in a sandwich. This just doesn't seem mind-blowing to me, and I'm so weirded out by him being like, you don't know what you're doing when she's just shown this.
I think he's the asshole. Like, I agree with that, but I think you're too weirded out by it.
That's possible. I don't know. Like, I also don't understand why he's so mad at her, because he's like, she called me stiff and closed-minded, and I told her she couldn't follow directions like children.
Yeah, I know. It's disproportional.
And again, I don't understand, because if you could point to something, anything where she had done wrong, if there was like an issue of cost where like if they messed up one meal, they wouldn't eat for a week. But that doesn't seem to be the case here. I'll say this. We were sitting in a clinic waiting room and watching guys' grocery games on TV for 6 hours the other evening. And I saw some stuff there and I was like genuinely inspired by it. The whole premise of the game is like you're in this like mock-up grocery store competing with like different restrictions. And some people came up with some really interesting twists on holiday food using like the limitations of like, whatever the theme was. And then I saw some recipes I hadn't seen before, like stuffing with pepperoni and mozzarella mixed in. So you have like gooey pizza filling but in stuffing form. And I was like, that sounds great. And I can imagine riffing off that with like the ingredients we have in our fridge right now.
But at the same time, like, I get it when, like, for example, I was making the corn casserole the other day, and you suggested we add cheese to it, and I said, no, let's not add cheese to it because this is a special recipe to me. Like, there are reasons to keep recipes the same, but this doesn't seem like one of them.
This is my Ina Garden New York Times recipe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, there's a difference between a recipe that's like a family tradition and a recipe that you found on Epicurious.
Yeah. Buddy, apologize to your girlfriend. Say that you were closed-minded. You know, it's okay to have preferences, but if things are turning out okay, maybe reevaluate your mindset on this.
Yes.
Am I the asshole for leaving after being told to be quiet at dinner?
I thought this was mine.
Was it yours? You just read the last one.
I did?
Yeah.
Oh, I did.
Do you want to read it, Laura?
No, it's okay.
Okay. This title probably makes it sound worse than it was, but I'm still conflicted. My female 21 boyfriend, male 24 of almost a year, invited me to dinner with his family, mom, dad, and his 16-year-old brother. I've never met them prior to that. The only thing I knew about them is that they're conservative and Christians, but lovely people. And they were. I got along really well with them before dinner. They were lovely and talkative. When it was time for dinner, my boyfriend's dad wanted to pray. After praying, he said something along the lines of, let us dig and let the food keep us quiet. This is a pretty popular saying in our country, mostly told to young children in school. My understanding of this has always been you shouldn't speak with food in your mouth, be extremely loud at the table. I wouldn't say it's a cultural thing, though. I dug in, took a bite. It was fish soup, absolutely delicious. And like a good guest, I wanted to compliment the cook. This is delicious. Is it saffron? A perfect autumn soup. My boyfriend's brother looked surprised. My boyfriend's father hushed me, big time. A really aggressive shh, with a finger over his lips. And then again he said, let the food keep us quiet. I apologized because I thought I'd accidentally spoken with food in my mouth or something, but a few minutes passed and no one said a word. Super awkward and weird, especially since they'd been so talkative before. My boyfriend was also unusually quiet. After a few minutes, I was too weirded out and asked about their day and how nice it was that they invited me there. And his mother did the hush thing. So awkward. I think this is when it clicked. No speaking at all at the table. Let the food keep us quiet. Really quiet. But this was a super awkward situation. I couldn't deal with that. Imagine sitting at a table with 5 people, everyone eating soup looking dead serious. So I laughed. It just slipped out. Ended up being told off by the boyfriend's parents that I was being disrespectful, and if I didn't respect how their household worked, I could eat alone in the kitchen. We were eating in a separate dining room. So I thanked them for the food and left to the hotel me and the boyfriend were staying at. My boyfriend later told me it was an asshole move, that I should have just kept quiet or eat alone in the kitchen. I understand their family traditions and rules, but it was so weird. I just couldn't take it anymore. Was I being the asshole?
Oh, man.
I'll say this. I've had fish soup that has made me swear before. I have had seafood scampi and gumbo where I'm like, hot damn. Like, I understand where she's coming from with that perspective.
Let the food keep us quiet. Because this seems fake.
You think it's fake?
Yes. Okay, there are a ton of
Dear Penthouse Magazine
articles about this Reddit post. And then a bunch of snacks that you can eat, like, at the movies without being obnoxious.
But there's no actual, like...
But there's no saying, let the food keep us quiet, that comes up on Google. So I think, if I had to put money on it, I think this is fake.
Fair. Okay.
But if it was real, I don't think she was the asshole for leaving.
I don't think she's the asshole for leaving. I don't think she's the asshole for not being quiet. I also don't think the parents are assholes for having weird rules at the table. Mm-hmm. But I do think they're assholes for being like, get in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Which I don't understand, where it's like, what is she going to be doing? Talking to herself in the kitchen away from other people? It's a little weird. I don't know. I've been at people's homes before and they've had weird rules. I don't know if you recall in the last year how some Swedish people casually mentioned that when they were over at their friends' houses growing up, the families would eat without them.
Yes.
And they'd have to be like alone in the room that their friend had just left as their friend's family ate without them. Then the friend would come back completely stuffed and be like, time to continue playing.
Yep.
And that seems like a weird cultural thing. And I guess that's why I'm like, this seemingly makes sense. Yeah, I don't know. I've always been taught you should compliment food.
Same.
That said, I can also understand wanting to eat a meal in silence. At Thanksgiving the other day, there were so many tasty things on my plate that I just like shut up for 10 minutes as I was gobbling food down.
You did.
Yes. And so I can understand like wanting to enjoy it and process flavors and whatnot. I've met families that are very quiet. This seems like a reasonable thing they might expect, but I can also understand it being like a deal breaker. I don't know. Like it seems weird, but it also seems like something I could get through. Mm-hmm. So I don't think she's the asshole for giggling, being like, this is
No.
a strange situation. I think they certainly overreacted, but I can also like understand that they may have customs. So I don't think anyone's really the asshole here until it escalated.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Totally agree with that. Anything else to say on this one?
I got nothing more to say about
Okay.
this.
Am I the asshole for calling my wife unreasonable for backing out of spending Christmas with my family after my mother rejected her cookie sample?
Cookie sample. I'm picturing like a medical waste container,
Right?
or
Like
like
a
a
little tube of
suitcase.
blood.
No, a suitcase with like that a man has handcuffed to his arm that's just
Yes.
filled with holiday cookies.
Exactly. Okay, for every context, for every holiday, my mother would ask the women in the family, my sister, sister-in-law, my wife, my female cousins, to send samples of the desserts they planned to bring to the celebration for tasting to see if these desserts could make it to the, quote, food menu. My wife has been complaining about my mother deliberately rejecting every dessert sample she sent. So many times my mother has told her that she's being honest and keeping the guest's best interest at heart. Yet my wife still thought that my mother is deliberately excluding her since 2 of her dessert samples were rejected before. For this year's Christmas, my mother is doing the same thing, but this time she told every woman who's participating to make a, quote, cookie sample and send it to her for testing. My wife took it as a challenge, and to be honest, she worked really hard to make a good sample and sent it to my mother days ago, and the results just came in yesterday. I came home from work and found
Like a doctor's note or something, like, oh no, it's inconclusive.
It's inconclusive. This is negative for cookie. I came home from work and found my wife upset. I asked what was wrong, and she told me that my mother rejected the sample she sent and decided to exclude her baking from the food list menu for Christmas this year. I didn't know what to say, but then she told me she was backing out of the invitation to attend Christmas with my family. I was stunned when I heard her make this statement. I tried to talk to her, but she said it was done. I called her unreasonable to decide to bail on the whole family over some cookie sample. That's just freaking crazy and quite unreasonable. We had a full argument about it, and she stated that my mother caused this, but I told her that my mother is pretty serious and careful about the food she offers to the guests since we are going to have relatives coming from all sides of the country. She told me to stop mentioning it. Later, I heard her cry despite telling her that her baking is amazing and people have preferences, that's all. Am I the asshole for insisting that her decision was unreasonable?
There's a lot going on.
There's a lot to unpack here, yeah.
Yes, you're the asshole. A lot of people in this story are assholes. Can we start with this family tradition where only the women cook?
Yes. I was hoping you would start with that.
Like, as someone who made multiple desserts for Thanksgiving and loves the opportunity to present, like, delicious, sweet, savory concoctions to my family, I'd be so bummed out if it was like, oh, only the women can do this.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems kind of sexist to have this expectation. I don't understand that at all to begin with. Secondly, this samples thing. I don't even understand how this works. Like, I'm assuming they live in the area and drop
They
off
must
food.
live in the
but then they're
area.
like, we're going to have relatives coming in from all
all
across
over
the
the
country.
country?
So is it like you have to
You
overnight?
mail in a cookie?
Yeah. Third, if the mother's intention is to come up with a menu that appeals to everyone, that seems mind-boggling because most people can agree on like what desserts are tasty.
Yeah.
Like I don't think you're gonna have people from the northeast of the country and the southwest coming together being
Disagreeing
like,
on whether chocolate cake is tasty.
pumpkin pie. What
Oh,
is
God,
this drivel?
yes.
Yeah. So that's mind-blowing too. This is just very weird. And then the mother being like, well, I'm just trying to be honest and keep the guest's best interest at heart. And I'm like, if you and your wife are going to be at the celebration and she's making desserts, the likelihood it's going to be something she wants to eat is pretty darn high in my mind. It's like the mother is rejecting things that at least 2 people who are going to be attending this celebration are going to eat. But all this goes without saying. Why can't you have multiple desserts?
Yeah. Exactly. There's no reason you can't have more dessert than you planned for. And if someone doesn't like it, they can take a bite and not eat the rest of it.
Yeah, and that's like a really cool thing about holiday celebrations too, where there's lots of food, because people can try new recipes. They can, maybe if they're not bakers, contribute something, and you don't have to enjoy it. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And then there's 5 dozen other things at giant family get-togethers that you can try and sample.
Exactly.
And like they got the opportunity to cook. Maybe some other people will enjoy it. not necessarily you, and everyone's happy. But here it's just like I'm arbitrarily going to anger some number of female relatives, whoever wasn't nice to me this year, in this like attempt to maintain control. And I think it's perfectly understandable the wife would be like, I do not want to spend any more time with relatives who make me feel like this and have these expectations that I just continue to fail every year.
Yeah. I think he's the asshole for describing her as freaking crazy as well.
Also, I like that last line. Later, I heard her cry despite telling her that her baking is amazing. Like, what do you think she's going to do? You're like, your baking's good, which is either you lying to make her feel better or you earnestly telling the truth and her being like, well, if my baking's so good, why doesn't my husband's mother like it?
Yeah.
Right? It just kind of reinforces the whole thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, boy, you really need to reevaluate your relationship with your family because your mother is ruining your relationship with your wife and you're enabling that.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Oh, there's so much extra info here.
Oh, is there?
There's a ton, yes. Okay, so let's see if this changes anything. I don't think it will, but let's see. Info. If you're asking whose cookie sample made it to the menu, my answer is my sister and my 2 cousins. Okay? Mm-hmm. So, blood relatives. Interesting. Info. A few things to put out there. My wife wasn't the only one whose sample was rejected. We have sister-in-laws and my younger sisters. 2. My mother did not force anyone to participate. It was up to whoever wanted to take part. 3. This is just about the dessert since my mother tends to be very careful in this category. But for other types of foods, dishes, appetizers, salads, stuff like that, is welcome, as she stated.
This kind of changes how I'm thinking about the mother's intentions if you still have the opportunity to bring other dishes. But then it just kind of seems like the mother has like a favorite dessert that she makes that she wants to like everyone to fawn over. She doesn't want anyone else to distract from that, which I still think is a dick move.
Yeah.
Also, what happens if you just show up to one of these and you're like, I brought pie? Is
she
gonna
flips
slap
the
it
pie out of your hands.
What's the update?
The update is great. So I just got off the phone with my brother and he told me that his wife is doing the same thing as my wife and that she's decided to back out of the invitation to spend Christmas with my family as well. Turns out my wife must have told her about her decision and she decided to follow her lead. My brother is pissed, saying my wife is encouraging his wife to do this. I see that the problem has just gotten bigger now. Who knows? My younger sister might join in and decide not to go as well. I don't know how this got so out of control so quickly. I guess we'll have to have a discussion with my mother about this soon and see how it goes.
There's this term I've seen in business, like tech companies, and I guess you could also apply like the tipping point idea to it too. But the idea is you can sometimes see a system be successful even as limitations and additional drains are put on it. But there comes a point where all of the drains collectively add up and the whole thing collapses once it reaches that point. So like one good example in business is you might run a social media company and charge people a subscription fee each month. And $5 a month is totally fine. A new CEO comes in and says, I want to up it to $6, and no one leaves. You up it to 7, maybe 10 people leave. You up it to 8, 50 people leave, right? But you still have hundreds of thousands of users. So someone in the back office says, well, we can probably raise it to $10 a month, and then we'll make even more money and barely lose any people. But when other companies have done this before, often they'll find there comes a point where
there's a straw that breaks the camel's back, where
people continue to justify it until some arbitrary point is reached. And you can sometimes figure out what this is by polling your customers. But when you reach $10, a lot of people can be like, $10 a month, $120 a year, that feels real to them. And that's the point they decide to cut their losses and leave. And that's the problem, because at that point you've broken your customers' trust. You showed that you didn't care about them as part of your network and organization. You cared. You clearly indicated you cared more about profit than other stuff, and it's so difficult to get people back once that trust's been broken. In the same way, years of collective abuse probably have broken the camel's back in this situation.
Yes,
and it's going to be very, very difficult for the mother and him to undo all the damage.
Absolutely.
I want to skip the next one. It's just super long. We're at about 45 minutes.
Oh, wow. That is super long. It's an interesting question, but I want to talk about the last one with you offline. But
am I the asshole for making my ex a birthday cake, even though his girlfriend told me she'd already ordered one? This one's interesting. I do want your thoughts on it.
Okay.
I'm an amateur baker, and I'd like to make cakes for people for their birthdays. That's not to say I don't want your thoughts for other things. I just feel this requires a little more attention than usual. My ex doesn't like sweet stuff, but our kids like helping me make a cake for him, so I normally make one for him anyway for their sakes. This year, his girlfriend planned a party for him, and she told me she'd already ordered him a cake, so I didn't need to make one. I told her that was fine, but my daughter kept asking when we would make her dad's cake and was upset when I said we wouldn't because she had assumed I didn't like my ex, and that's why I wouldn't make him one. Since the cake has always been more for the kids than for my ex, I decided to just make him a small one since it's not like he eats cake anyway, and I don't want my kids to think I dislike their dad. I told his girlfriend before that I was going to make a small cake, and she told me not to, and then I couldn't bring it to the party. I told her I had to bring it to the party as that's when the kids would give him his gifts. I offered to come early and give it to him before the other guests arrive, and then they could put it away and nobody would know about the cake, but she didn't agree with me and repeatedly told me not to bring it. I did take it with me in the end, and now she keeps complaining to mutual friends that I did it on purpose to ruin the party and calling me weird for making him a cake after I was told not to. Am I the asshole?
No.
Explain.
I think that this is a family tradition that this amateur baker has established over years and years and years, where she makes a cake for her kid's dad with her kids so her kids can eat it. I think the kids like the process of making the cake. I think they like the joy on their dad's face when they give him the cake that they've made. I think that's a special moment for them that shouldn't be ruined. I think the girlfriend is the asshole here because she's not compromising on ways to do this. Like, it's fine to get him a cake as well, and it's fine to want to prioritize that cake at the party over the homemade cake from the amateur baker. But it's not fine to exclude the family tradition completely of making the cake and giving it to their dad.
So let me refer you back to line 2. My ex doesn't like sweet stuff.
Yes, I know. But he likely likes that his kids want to do stuff for him.
Maybe. I don't know if we can presume that. See,
we can presume that. You just...
I like sweet things.
No. Dads... I have never given my dad something that he doesn't like. Even if he hates it, he still likes it. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense. Because it's for me and like I put the thought into it to make it for him. Like in the 6th grade, I made him a mix CD called the Dancing Penguin Mix CD. And I put this GIF of a penguin on the CD label. Mm-hmm. And of course it was just a still image at that point. But it had like the Crazy Frog song on it. And like...
Why have you never shared this with me?
I don't know.
This seems like something I would enjoy. By the single song you've shared on this mixtape.
You can ask my dad to see it at Christmas. But it had a bunch of just like music that a 6th grader in 2006 would have been really, really into. And not an adult man. But he had it in his car for years and years and years and years and years.
Aww.
Like, because it reminded him of me and that I put the thought into doing something for him.
Am I crazy? Because I don't think cake can sit in your car for years.
Cake can't sit in your car for years and years and years. That's true. But I'm saying that the gesture of doing something is more important than the thing that you do for a lot of people.
I'm 100% with you on that. What I don't understand is why there can't be a compromise where I'm not saying it's rational, but I can understand the girlfriend who's like uncomfortable with the ex constantly being involved in the other person's life. I think it's I think it's unfair to arbitrarily exclude the children of your significant other from like celebrations. But I can understand like mentally where she's coming from, where she's like, this connection still exists and that makes me weird. Not saying it's right. I'm just saying I understand it. The thing that I'm confused by is if the ex hates sweet things and the girlfriend is so uncomfortable with the idea of doing another cake, why not make him something savory? A nice quiche. Don't look at me like that. Tacos with all the fixing. Look, there's plenty of savory dishes you can make with your kids. That's an act of love.
To make a cake.
It can be a savory cake, mushroom loaf, meatloaf.
Ew.
I think there hasn't been enough thought given to ways there could be compromise in this. Because I don't think the girlfriend's 100% wrong for feeling weirded out by this. Mm-hmm. I don't think she's 100% wrong for wanting the kids to be able to continue this tradition. And I think that if they just like sat down and talked about it, they could figure something out. But both of them seem kind of stubborn.
Yeah.
I don't think she's an asshole, but she's really riding the line by not, like, trying to come up with some compromise. I'm not saying the girlfriend is
She did
right.
try to come up with some compromise, though. She did that. Are we fighting? Is this a fight?
I think there's additional layers of complexity that I would personally consider important, but I can understand if you don't.
So I'm not complex enough for you?
Here's your next question. Welcome to Why Won't No One Date These Guys, the podcast ruining relationships.
Yep. Okay. Am I the asshole for calling my husband insane for missing work just to teach me a lesson because I didn't iron his uniform?
I'll say this. If anyone says they do anything to teach you a lesson, red flags.
Yes. And insane. Insane is also a red flag to me. Days ago, I, a stay-at-home mom of 3, was in the midst of doing laundry when my husband, the breadwinner, works as a pilot, asked if I could iron his uniform before his shift. I didn't say yes because I was busy. Laundry, then kids, then homework, then cooking, etc. I said I may not find the time to do it. He turned around and walked away, completely ignoring what I was saying. An hour later, he came downstairs freaking out, asked why I didn't iron his uniform when he asked me to. I told him I was busy and reminded him of how I didn't say yes to his request. He blew up, saying that I obviously don't care about him displaying professionalism at work. It's just a uniform, except they misspelled uniform, and it's unifatum, which I enjoy.
That's a specialty pilot thing.
Specialty
They
pilot
wear it
uniform.
under their pilot scrubs.
Yes. It's not like it was dirty. It just needed some ironing. He lectured me about how his work is important, and although I'm a stay-at-home mom, I should still make his job a priority. He decided to miss his shift as a way to, quote, teach me a lesson and show me how my lack of cooperation and my refusal to help him out could affect the money that keeps coming in. I called him insane for missing the shift, and he got offended, and he called me a hypocrite for calling him insane and acting all surprised when it was me who caused the situation to happen. I mean, I could have taken some time off from doing my chores to iron his uniform, but still thought his reaction was a bit much. Am I the asshole? For those asking why he didn't iron the uniform himself, because I'm the one who usually does the ironing, and he said it's on the list of my house chores, which is true, but I don't give it priority like other chores like homework or laundry.
She's not the asshole.
Ooh, hot take. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Am I too complex for you?
I'm kidding.
Boy,
no, she's
howdy.
not the asshole.
Is this the same woman who makes desserts her relatives hate and whose husband doesn't give her support?
Maybe.
Let's start with this. I don't have children. We don't have children. But I can certainly respect that being a stay-at-home mom requires a lot of energy.
Oh, yeah. That's a
and
full-time
skill
job.
in order to, like, pull it off.
Your mom was a stay-at-home mom, right?
Yeah.
My mom was a stay-at-home mom. And they did a ton of work.
You know, again, helping kids with homework, cleaning up the house, doing laundry, prepping meals, you know, both, you know, they 3 meals a day if your kids are at home or lunches for your kids often, doing household finances a lot of the time, going grocery shopping, making sure your kids have clothes and, you know, that everything's stitched up and all that. Yeah, like, you can do a crappy job, but there's still a lot of things to do.
Yeah.
Like, there's no doubt that it requires, like, energy and time and effort. I think it's perfectly fine to have an arrangement in your relationship where one person takes, like, priority over one chore or
certain
another.
jobs, yeah.
But it's also mind-boggling to think there couldn't be any sort of accommodations for situations where stay-at-home mom is away from the house when she's under the weather, when she has to sleep in because she stayed up late with, like, a vomiting child. Like, there's so many opportunities where, like, this whole system could fall apart, and the idea the husband didn't see it as an obligation for himself to resolve is crazy.
Yeah.
It seems to me he just wanted to take a day off work.
Yeah, it does seem like he wanted to take a day off work and blame somebody else for it.
I think you can certainly say that, like, you should support your significant other if, like, you're doing all the stuff at home and they have a job outside of the house. That's not to say you should 100% be responsible for it.
For
and it's not to
every
say
little thing,
they can't do things.
Yeah.
Like, yes,
Like-
they may have a 40-hour-a-week job, but you have a 24/7 job taking care of kids.
Like, my mom was a stay-at-home mom, but my dad would come home and make dinner sometimes. Just because that was my mom's quote-unquote job didn't mean that he couldn't help out in that way. It was just like a nice gesture that he could do and keeping up the obligation of feeding his family, you know?
Yeah. Like, this whole excuse where it's like, I don't care about him displaying professionalism at work. We're in a relationship, Lauren. We've been dating for over a year. Have you ever been like, Joel, you're not showing professionalism? I don't feel that's a thing like the significant other is ever going to be responsible for at all.
Professionalism at work? No.
Yeah, like that's like 100% on you. And I think it's totally fine if you show up with a rumpled uniform. I don't think that's the end of the world. I show up with rumpled clothes more days than I'd like to admit because I hate ironing.
You literally work in...
The podcast doesn't know that.
Oh.
I'll censor that out.
Okay. Sorry.
Remember, I'm not allowed to talk about my work unless people directly ask me.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Just like how Lauren works for Enron, and unless you directly ask her that, she can't respond because no one knows they still exist. Boy, this is a weird relationship.
Yeah.
You'd think that if it was a priority for him, he could have been like, I will take over the homework for the children, and I will do their lunches for tomorrow.
Yeah.
But no, that just was inconceivable.
Yeah.
I bet he was sitting on the couch watching the sports.
Yes. Yes. Asshole.
Damn. Lauren, we are approaching an hour. I think this is going to be the last one.
Okay.
Go for it.
I just read the last one.
Did you read the last one?
Yeah.
Oh, I God, we're both bad at this. I'm going to let you read this next one.
Okay.
You can close this out.
Okay.
Because I consider us a partnership, but I also want to give you the fun tasks and responsibilities.
Thanks.
This doesn't make any sense. I'm just trying to hype myself up as a feminist.
You can hype yourself up.
Okay.
You
Go
do
ahead.
most of the dishes. You can hype yourself up. Am I the asshole for asking my friend to move a picture of him and his wife because it made my wife uncomfortable? Me, male 32, and my wife, Dahlia, female 28, lost our apartment 2 months ago and moved in with my mom temporarily. Issues began to arise between Dahlia and mom, and I had to ask my friend Anthony, 31 male, to let us move in until I get enough money to rent out. His wife was away visiting family, and he agreed, but even there, some issues started to arise. FYI, Dahlia is very shy around Anthony. She grew up in a conservative home, and so it's understandable, but sometimes it can be a bit much, and I admit that. For example, she freaked out when she accidentally drank from his glass. She also once made a fuss when he passed by the guest's room while she was lying down and the door was open. Thankfully, Anthony was super understanding, and we were able to talk some of these issues out. Last night, Dahlia was passing the hall and noticed a framed picture of Anthony and his wife kissing hanging on the wall. She told me about it and said it made her uncomfortable. She said I could speak to Anthony about it, but he didn't take it well. He gave me a look when I spoke to him and said this was bonkers because, first of all, his wife put it there, and second of all, the picture holds sentimental meaning to him and his wife, and argued that it wasn't some explicit picture of them, just a normal wedding kiss. Wedding kiss? We started arguing that it wasn't like it was hanging in the living room or a perfectly lit room. I asked him to be a little more considerate because it's not like I asked him to remove it completely. Just move it elsewhere that Dahlia won't reach or keep it off the wall until we
reach?
leave.
Like she's
reach
a
like
cat?
a child? He said he was sorry
down.
but still refused. I explained how Dahlia was feeling, but again he said that he was sorry but would not move the picture. We argued some more and he said that it's his house and that I was being pushy and kind of too comfortable to make such a demand and be pushy still. This morning, Dahlia refused to even come out of the room until the picture is moved. Anthony is refusing, which makes it worse. Now I feel like I'm getting stuck between a rock and a hard place. Yes, she might just be overreacting, but I feel this isn't too big of an ask for Anthony to decline and turn down. For what it's worth, if it were me, I'd go the extra mile to make sure my guests are comfortable. Anthony has been a friend of mine for 10 years. I wouldn't have asked to move in with him if I didn't have such a strong bond with him. He himself constantly talks about all the things in the situation I helped him out with, and we are considered brothers. Am I the asshole?
Yes.
Can we say Dahlia is definitely the asshole?
Yes. I mean, obviously Anthony's no. Hey, boy, it's really weird how Dahlia and his mother didn't get along. Strange how he doesn't go into any details about that.
Yep.
For what it's worth, if I was at a friend's house, not staying there full time, just like there for dinner or something, and I like walk past their bedroom and there were explicit photos up on the wall, visible as you're like walking down the hall to the bathroom, I don't feel I would be comfortable being
I
like,
wouldn't say a damn thing.
there's that too. But like if I'm staying at someone's house because I've lost my apartment and been kicked out of my mother's house, it's really bad when like the blood between your family is that bad. And again, an incredibly explicit photo was hanging on the wall. I'd be like, boy, this is not a situation that I feel comfortable addressing because I am living at someone's house, not paying rent.
Yes.
Yeah, like, boy, your significant other's a keeper.
Yeah. Jeez.
Okay, it's okay to come from a conservative background.
It's fine to come from a conservative background.
I'll say
but
that.
But I'm pretty sure even like the frickin' Duggar family would be fine with a picture of them kissing on the wall.
I am trying to think of like a culture that doesn't even allow like pecs on the wedding photos.
Yeah,
you can imagine
he said it was a wedding photo. That's what really gets me is the fact that this was a wedding kiss. Like, it's not just any, like, random kiss. It's literally from their union as a couple. Like, they're doing this under the eyes of God and shit. Like, they should be fine with it.
Okay, so I can understand wanting to go to bat for your persnickety significant other.
Yes.
I can understand wanting to be a good husband and following up on the things that they told you were making them uncomfortable. I don't think it's your place to make demands of the person who is hosting you. And I think you need to be able to have the tough conversations with your wife and say, I tried. I know it makes you uncomfortable, but this is his house. We are living here for free because you and my mother nearly killed each other. We're going to have to live with this. And I think you should really dig into why this makes your wife so uncomfortable.
Yes.
Like maybe I was self-diagnosing a little earlier, but boy, if you drink from someone's glass and are freaking out, if someone walks past you as
while
you're
laying down,
yeah, this is quite a situation. You're the asshole, your significant other's the asshole. Maybe find some more friends to move in with soon.
Yep. Sounds like you're gonna need it.
Lauren, I think that's about it for today. We have some doozies that I think we can save those for a future episode, which we'll record tomorrow.
Oh, yay.
Yeah. Do we have anything to wrap up with? What's coming up for us?
What is coming up for us? Oh, we're going to my parents' house for Christmas this year.
Where do your parents live?
Kansas.
Exciting.
It is exciting.
It's going to be so
Joel's
cold.
going to see so much grass.
It's going to be so cold.
It is going to be cold.
I've been to Indiana for a Christmas when I was very young, and I recall it being miserable. So I'm going to bundle up in 6 layers, and I'm going to look like a big snowman.
My mom is very worried about us not having winter coats. It's very cute.
We'll figure something out.
That's what I told her.
The thing I also find very funny is that Lauren's family is apparently freaking out trying to figure out how to prep a tofurkey for me. And if you're listening to this,
literally every conversation I've had with them over the past month and a half has included tofurkey instructions.
I feel both very loved and pampered, which I appreciate, but also like maybe I'm a bad house guest. Oh no. Are they afraid I'm going to like start making demands that they take down photos if they don't prepare a good tofurkey roast for me? Yeah, for people who don't eat tofurkey, you should. It's great. It makes its own gravy. No, that's not true. It comes with gravy. Typically, there's a wild rice stuffing inside, which is quite good. But yeah, you stick it in an oven, typically with some water so it doesn't get super crispy. And it cooks, and it's very moist, and it can accompany all of your traditional holiday sides. Consider it if you're looking to cut meat out of your diet, or simply because meat is too gosh darn expensive this year. Anything else to wrap up?
Don't think so.
Don't buy Coca-Cola Dreamland.
Yep, don't do it.
But I am excited for the other drug-infused Coca-Cola tonics.
Yes, me too.
Coming to
can't wait for the
neighborhood
ketamine version.
Coca-Cola with multiple Ks.
Yes.
Not-
CCK.
Yeah, we are not getting a better ending than that. Bye for now, y'all.
Bye.
ding, ding.